welcome back to the Only Finance Podcast. I'm Liam.
I'm Charlotte.
And we are going to fill your ears with job security.
Absolutely. So we are here to demystify financial things. We're basically here to talk to you about finance stuff and go, hey, it's okay to not know what inflation is. It's okay to not know what a mortgage interest rate is or why it's important. And it's okay to say that you're in your overdraft or you have monumental amounts of credit card debt because honestly, who doesn't? So every week we take a different topic and we talk about it a little bit to give you guys a bit of an education and to say if you're in this situation, we can give a little bit of advice. And I use that term really loosely because neither of us are financial advisors. We have combined probably over a decade's worth of experience working in financial services.
A little bit more. I think you're selling us short.
I'm selling us young.
Fair. But what we can do is just talk about it from a real world perspective. There's a lot of people who talk about these things online and, they carry on talking about it like they're talking to an inquest. When really it should just be more like, hey, let's just chat about it and make it normal. So you're probably sat there thinking, what the fuck do jobs have to do with it? Well, job security equals paycheck. Paycheck equals financial security. And job security is very, very important. You will see a lot about the job market or the labour market, about how much unemployment there is, etc., etc. So we're here to demystify, if that's a word. Is it a word?
100%
Okay,
is definitely in the dictionary.
Fine. Is it?
Yeah.
And we're going to check this after.
In fact, check me all you want.
Hey Siri, is demystify a word? I'll let you off. Is this the year of the side hustle?
Reading my notes. Yeah, so the question is there's a cost of living crisis. Everyone is fucking skint because the British gas bills and the fact that our salaries, toilet paper and our salaries aren't going up in line with inflation is the biggest problem. A lot of people, it's like a buzzword, Instagram, TikTok, side hustle. How can I possibly make more money that isn't selling pictures of whatever on OnlyFans? And actually, side hustles are not a bad shout. That's how my business started, as a side hustle, and now I do it full time, which is awesome. But we want to talk to you about, are you happy in your job? Does it pay enough? Because a huge proportion of our listeners, I mean, I'm working off assumptions, but you're going to look at what you get paid and go, it isn't enough because I still can't afford to pay more into my pension. I can't afford to invest at the end of the month. I can't afford to reasonably replace my tyre if I blow it out on the motorway this weekend. And that's why this conversation is so important because not only to do with side hustles, but to do with, do you see your value? And I've skipped through like 4 different points on our notes.
Yeah,
and I
so I'm
appreciate...
going to rein you in. I'm going to rein you in. So, talking about a side hustle, it's an easy, it's a buzzword, right? We can put it on a little clip that we can put on TikTok and it'll get picked up by the algorithm and put it in front of a load of people, right? So, a side hustle doesn't have to be, you claiming to be an overnight millionaire on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is. It is simply doing something else that can make you a little bit of money, right? Now, there's different apps out there that you can use to offer a side hustle to the community. I'm not going to plug them because they're not sponsoring us. So if you want them, message us. We'll give you them, obviously, because, we're like that. But we're not going to plug them for free. They give you the option. I've signed up to one, and I do it through data analytics. And they give the option to provide essentially contract work to people. Now, there are a lot of factors to consider about these things before you just go, I tell you what, I'm a really good painter. Sorry to allude back to painters. I know your feelings towards painters and decorators, but I'm going to go and decorate houses at weekend, or I'm going to offer a little bit of joinery, or I can sew, so I'll offer clothes adjustment. Whatever it might be, there are a lot of things to consider with that. We can go into that in a little more detail later on, but what we want to look at is the main part, like your bread and butter, your day-to-day, your income, like your main income source. So mine, I'm a BDM for a lender, and I'm quite lucky. I am happy where I work. I work for a really cool company. They're very flexible, they're very forward-thinking. We've got nice things associated with, like we work in a beautiful barn conversion style building with an on-site chef. So
an on-site chef.
Yeah, honestly, it's amazing. The guys are fucking genius as well, by the way. Like, I walked in my first day. It was something like chicken treats on saffron, like risotto. And it was like...
I didn't understand 60% of the words that just came out of your mouth.
It was stunning. Anyway, it's beautiful. And I'm very lucky, right? I am very, very lucky. But, you know, not all firms offer these things. You know, there are people out there that, will just like give the bare minimum to your staff. And ultimately, you know, we want to talk about the stability, layoffs, unemployment, because of the bullet point that we made and we talked about, and it's a really open-ended conversation. And if you were paying attention to any sort of news around November, you'll know that OpenAI got rid of their CEO, and then they let him back in 5 days later. And the reason I say OpenAI is because they're part of ChatGPT, and that contributes to a lot of people's side hustles in like marketing ideas. And we've openly used it.
Yeah.
I use it on mine when I need to sense check formulas in Excel.
Yeah,
so
and my business model, I'm hugely reliant on AI as a time-saving thing more than anything else. It doesn't really build my products, but it builds all my social media stuff.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot to talk about. Is it going to take my job?
Yeah.
What's your automatic response to that? Because I have a very different take.
Yeah, we do. So I think that most people's jobs are going to be replaced by AI, but I have... so my partner, I don't want to say he's obsessed with AI, but he's very much the world is ending because AI is here, and I can't draw myself away from that. Like, I've watched that Will Smith film,
iRobot.
That one, and I'm like, we're
doomed.
Yeah, the world is ending slowly. So I'm one of those people where I'm like, AI is probably bad in the long run, and it's probably going to get a lot of people out of jobs, and that's just because there's industries and there's businesses that are now becoming redundant because of the services that AI can provide. But I know that you feel super different about it.
I do acknowledge that there are certain streams of employment that could be made redundant by AI. But when people talk about AI replacing jobs, everyone thinks that it's just going to be like a supercomputer, like an iRobot that's just going to like kill all the humans and, you know, do everything with robotics. And it's not sort of the case, really. Like, AI is only as good as the people prompting it. Your business model or your prompts that you put into AI is what has helped you build your business, right? Yeah. But if I open any AI thing, let's use ChatGPT, because obviously ChatGPT, because obviously we've both got experience using it. If I open my laptop and I Google OpenAI and I sign ChatGPT and then I leave that laptop on there, that AI function will do the square root of fuck all on its own. It needs people to input into it. So jobs may be replaced by AI in a stretch, but they'll only be replaced by people who are using AI. And AI I'm quite neutral on AI. I think if it's controlled well by independent parties that are very, 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 very non-linked to the people who profit from AI, then it could be done really well. Like anything, though, if it's got hold of by people who crave insurmountable volumes of wealth, then it'll probably ruin our lives. So, if people who learn how to use AI well, then they'll still have jobs. However, iRobot might take over. And if you're right, I really don't want you to call me out on that one.
Okay, that's totally fine. I mean, the internet will be down, so I won't be able to because I'll be stuck in this house.
Good point, well made. We'll send a carrier pigeon.
But we massively segued from our job security side hustle situation. And I think we need to talk about the fact that the reason that job security is important is because we need to be paid what we're worth.
100%.
And there's a shift from our generation to, is it Gen Z, the next generation
Don't
down?
ask me, because I don't know which ones they are. But it's that hybrid between sort of like 90s. And I say 90s loose. I mean, I was one of the last. I was born 1990. Podcaster Chris behind us was 89, you old bastard.
Yeah, and I'm
91.
early 90s as well.
Yeah.
So the generation beneath us are way more educated on this kind of stuff, and they go into jobs going, okay, but what can you give me? Whereas we went into jobs going, just please fucking give us a job. We'll do anything. Like, if you want our kidneys, we will sign it away in a contract. Because we just wanted a salary to be able to rent a place and be a grown-up and take that next step. Whereas the generation below us are going into businesses and going, what can you give to me? And that is amazing because there are still people in our generation that aren't doing that. Like, we still have friends that go into jobs and they're like, just give me a pay cut. Like give me a pay cut and don't give me a lunch break and I'll take it. Whatever you can give me.
Absolutely.
And that comes out of a need because you're trapped in that cycle of, okay, I need to pay my bills, but to pay my bills, I need to have a job. But to have a job, I just need to get a fucking interview and then beg. And actually, there is a massive shift that we need to be aware of do you understand your value, and do you have the confidence to go into an interview and go, this is what I bring to your business, what can you bring to me? And there is a lot of support that you can get online these days that teaches you how to see your value. And neither of us are experts in that in any stretch, but it is one of the biggest investments that you can make is to take the time and look at, it might be a person online, so you might really vibe with somebody on TikTok or Instagram, or it might even be a course that you do where they're like, let me show you what you're worth. Because my business model, I had somebody turn around to me not so long ago and go, you are undercharging for your services by a phenomenal amount. And I was like, no way. There's no way that I could charge more for my services. And as it was, I now charge more for my services just because an outsider told me that I could. And I would never have thought that that was possible. And you guys as listeners need to be doing the same thing. You need to see what you bring to a table and have the confidence to go, this is what I bring to you, what are you delivering to me? And whether that's a commission structure, whether it's flexible working, remote working, or it's just the cash in your bank at the end of the month, do it, because it will be the best decision you ever make.
I have previously been poor at like negotiating in salary.
I thought you were just going to be, I've just been poor.
Well,
full stop,
obviously.
I've been poor.
It's easy for us to sit here, right? We sound dead confident, dead happy, but that's because we're in an environment where like we're friends, right? So it's easy for us to sit and chat like this. Like, I've sat in interviews shitting my pants.
Yep.
I've also sat in interviews and done really, really well and had some really positive feedback. So it is a skill to be able to understand your value and negotiate. So some easy ways to identify. Let's just stop talking about doing it. How do you identify that skill? So people always talk about finding your niche or creating your niche, right? Creating your niche. What is your niche, right? Your niche should be something that you love, right? It's got to be something you're passionate about. You were passionate about how very, very poor CMAP servicing was, or CMAP education was, and we had a really cool conversation about the difference between what you offer your students to the experience I had, where I basically sat in a chicken coop style box and had Miss Trunchbull walking around, which I'm pretty confident she had a ruler in her hand at the best of time, and was like staring over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't looking anywhere. And I had this like tiny 1990s style monitor and a mouse to click, and that was it. And you're like doing online. So essentially, what the point was, you found a niche that you offer a really friendly, affable sort of personality to people to help them go through something that is very complex and difficult, because CMAP is, and that's your niche. I carved my niche in data. I'm great with spreadsheets and data and analysing that, and I didn't learn that until a little bit later in my career. And then I tried to carve my niche out in that. So that was how I sort of added value to people. Or to companies, I can say, look, I know you've got a tech team, but how much do you spend doing data analytics? This is what I'm really good at. Here's what I've built or what I can build. So it's finding out what you're good at. Now, there are examples from our world. I can't pretend to be able to offer an example from the world of the people who are listening, but ultimately find something that you love.
And if you don't know what you love, ask your friends. There's a really interesting article that I read that says if you don't know what your niche is or you don't know what you're good at, ask your 10 closest, it doesn't even have to be friends, it can be acquaintances. So my auntie is a yoga instructor and she did this with her clients and was like, what am I really good at? And they were all like, talking. You do it all the time. You can't fucking stop. And she realized that actually there's a way that she could monetize that. So if you don't know what your niche is, ask your friends, because they will turn around and be like, every time I'm having a bad day, you are the person that cheers me up. Every time I don't know what to do if I'm in my overdraft, you're the person that I ring when I ask about, what is the best interest rate for a mortgage, or what do I do if I don't know what makeup to buy. Like, everybody has a niche and you don't know what it is. So if you don't know, ask your friends, ask your immediate circle, because they are going to be your biggest hype people. Like, when I wasn't sure about launching my business, I reached out to you and you were like, just do it. Like, just grab it by the fucking balls and do it. And that was the advice that I took.
No, actually, I probably did say
you probably did say balls. And roles reversed when
Yeah.
you weren't sure on stuff. You rang me and I've been like, just do it. This is what you're good at, and you need to believe in yourself. And sometimes it doesn't need to come from a course. It doesn't need to come from a stranger on the internet. It just needs to come from your friendship group. But if you can see your value financially, that could be the best decision you ever make, ever.
Absolutely. So when you find the value that you're adding in whether that's your niche, right? Also, it can just be anything as well. It doesn't even have to relate to what you're currently doing, right?
It can just be a transferable skill.
Exactly. So understanding what skills you have that are transferable, right? And you don't have to spend like hours deep diving into what you do day to day at work to understand what transferable skills are, what your transferable skills are. It's just think about things that you do regularly that you do without considering that you're doing them. Second nature. That's a transferable skill. That's something you can do and apply somewhere else. Like I can type formulas without really thinking about what I'm doing. Now that isn't very transferable, so obviously this is quite a shite example. But I can use it to take away from, if I wanted to, leave financial services, I could go and, I could take that transferable skill and apply that to data analytics within another type of industry.
Yeah.
It's a skill that isn't just applicable to one thing. And if you are one of those people sat there thinking, oh, I don't have anything that I can transfer because I work in a very niche industry. Yes, you fucking do. Because everything that you do within that is done somewhere else.
And if you're still not sure, look at your CV. Because if you give your CV to a stranger, they will go, hey, this is your transferable skill because you've done it in 4 different jobs across 4 different industries.
Yeah.
And actually, CVs is one of our points that we're going to talk about anyway, just to say, keep it updated, keep it out on the market.
And there is nothing wrong with that. Don't think that your employer is going to find your CV online and sack you.
Yep.
Now, I can talk from experience here because there's quite a good story behind this. And I know I've told you this story, so I'm sorry to bore you with it. But Chris hasn't heard this one, so you might laugh. I was working for the company where I sort of found that I was quite good at data analytics. And I just got to a point, not enjoying working there because I loved working there. And if anyone that I know is listening, then they'll know exactly which company I'm referring to. But I was working there, I was happy, I just reached the ceiling. I couldn't go any further, there wasn't much in pay progression or job progression. So I just wanted a new challenge. I was mid-20s, I wanted to try and engage in my career and really push it. So my CV was online. I kept it updated. And unfortunately, someone found my CV online and put it to the company I was currently working at. So our managing director, he was he was an imposing individual, right? He wasn't threatening or nasty. He was just quite imposing.
Yeah.
He had this thing where he'd sit in meetings and he'd just look intently at you.
Don't blink.
Yeah. And it was, But he was a really nice bloke. And he came, our office was in centre of Manchester. It's almost like a square donut. And there was different floors. And it was glass. So you could see what was going on the other side. And I was sat there and you could see him walk out of his office. And you could tell by his walk whether it was going to be a pleasant or unpleasant conversation. And you're sort of sat there hoping, praying that you're not on the receiving end of this. And he had his walk that suggested he wasn't best impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And he came pounding over to our side of the office. And I was like, we didn't have to interact with our MD too much. We only did it in our sales meetings. But he came towards our desk. I was like, in my head I said, God, I hope I'm not the one on the receiving end of this. And he grabbed a chair, dragged it halfway across our section of the office, plonked it in front of my desk, sat down, put his feet on my desk, and then just threw 2 sheets of paper on the desk in front of me and goes, want to explain this? And there's my CV in front of him. And I'm like, sorry. And he's like, why are you applying for a job at Evo? And I'm like, I'm not. He's like, so why is your CV on my desk? And I just looked at him and I was like, Now, I didn't know at the time. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously. And it was fine,
But we're not told that. That's another thing.
Yeah,
we're not told how that works.
Yeah. And the beauty of this is that so the beauty of it, first of all, is that I was obviously actively looking to leave at that point. Not because I was unhappy there, and I always look back on that place with fond memories, but just because I wanted the next step. When I eventually actually went to hand my notice in, he called me out and said, so you were looking to leave? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right. And I was like, I'm sorry, but, I was just ready for the next step. He's like, it's fine. He's like, I wasn't asked about your CV being updated online. It's not an issue, Liam. I'm like, oh. And it was that moment where I was like, oh, that's completely healthy. It's normal. He just said, you've just got balls lying to me, haven't you? And, yeah, look, you can be online and help, and it's fine, because when you talk about going to companies, right, you don't get a chance to experience it. And we spoke about this, we didn't make it as a note, and I wanted to because it's important, right? Your CV tells you people about your professional work life, but you don't know enough about a company when you go for an interview. They grill you to kingdom come about your experience, what you've done, what value you're going to add. But they don't tell you about what it's like there. They tell you more about culture, we're a family, and all this. So
that's exactly what they do. I remember going to a job and they were like, you know, you will never ever work for a business like this. We are so family orientated. If something happens with you personally, don't worry, we've got you back. They were the most toxic company that I have ever worked for. By the way, car benefit solutions, don't go there. And I'm happy to call these. I'm not allowed on the premises anymore because I was like, so you as a company are full of shit, and I will continue to call those people out for the bad way that they have treated a lot of people that I love. But you go to a company and they will sell themselves in a way that you cannot sell yourself, because that's what they do when they recruit people. And it's so important to be aware of that, because actually you need to make sure that this is a right fit for you, because you'll see the people that you work with more than you see the people that you live with.
Absolutely.
Like, you'll see them more than your family and friends and everything else, and it's more than about a salary. And it's easy to say that now when you're like, yeah, but Charlotte, I'm fucking skint and I just want a job. And I get that, but use it as a stepping stone, because having your CV online is not the same as still being on Tinder when you're in a relationship. And people struggle to make that differentiation. If you die tomorrow, your workplace will just replace you with the next person in line, but your significant other will grieve, hopefully.
They will replace you at a moment's notice. And look, if during most new roles you have a probationary period, right? Sometimes 3, sometimes 6 months. My current one is 6 months, right? In that 6 months, my notice is a week. And if they don't think I'm right for the job or whatever, they can say, look, this isn't working out for us. You can go. We'll
replace you in a week.
Yeah. And they can replace you in a week. Like, between my first interview and getting offered that job was 4 days. In 4 days, they'd replaced the person who was before me. I don't know like what his circumstances were or whatever. It's not the point. But you can be replaced very quickly. You don't get that chance to see what it's actually like to be at a company. I've said before, I said earlier, I'm very lucky where I am now. You know, I walked in for my interview and I was like, this is a fucking cool place. And then I've gone in on my first day, I'm like, yeah, I'm all right here. It's going to be good. And that's not just because they feed me.
It is just because they feed them.
Fair. They as a company, not the one I'm with for now, but companies in general, don't give you a feel for what it's like to work there until you actually get there. And you know what? You don't maybe feel it for the first 2 weeks, a month.
At least, yeah.
Prior to the place I'm working at now, I was somewhere for 2 months, and it wasn't. I had a gut feeling earlier. I said to my girlfriend, I was like, I think I made a bad call here. And then I remember speaking to you, and I was like, I've made a really fucking stupid decision going there. But it's okay if you don't realise that until you go. And the last thing we wanted to touch on, because I know that he's looking at us and telling us,
Video Chris is like, you're out of time. You're out of time.
Yeah. We get arm signals. So it's okay to have short tenures on jobs.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay to go somewhere and realise it's not the place for you and move on. Right. It's normal. People do it.
Our parents talk about commitment to a company. That is dead. Forget about that, because the generation below us are like, I'm going to stay with this business for 6 months. I'm going to get what I need out of it, and then I'm going to move somewhere else for more money because I've got more experience. And we need to take that on. So if we have any 30-somethings listening to this...
Yeah, you can negotiate. You can leave. It's fine.
Negotiate, leave, get the better pay cut, get the better paycheck, because you benefit from that. And actually, your financial stability is the most important thing. So you owe your company...
You owe it to yourself.
I was going to be like, you owe your company shit. You took the better angle.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be places where you'll go and spend your life because you get in somewhere that is fucking incredible and they've got great benefits. My dad spent his entire career at United Utilities. Right? He's worked very hard there, but he's got a great pension scheme. They've been very flexible. You know, he's been happy there.
Yep.
I haven't spent my entire career at one place. You know, I've been some places I'm very unhappy. There's some places it's not worked out. I've not been very good at the job. Like, if you get somewhere and you're happy, like, don't look at this and go, well, they said I have to try and negotiate a higher salary or I should leave. Like, if you're happy, like, you can't put a price on happiness.
No.
Right. If you are underpaid for what you do, open a line of conversation. If you're staying there because you're happy, then...
That is everything.
That is everything. But also, don't let them undervalue or take advantage of you being happy. And it's finding that middle ground. And having an open conversation with, you know, your sort of line manager or your meet superior, whoever it might be, is probably the most important thing. Just saying, look, the market out there indicates I could be paid more. You know, I work hard here. List what you've done, what you do, the value that you add, because that will support you as well in telling you what's good about what you do, and say, look, I'd like to have that conversation. You know, and there's nothing wrong. Like, if they say no, then they say no, right? That tells you what you need to know. Now, they might say, look, we do it at a certain point in the year, and we're not at that point yet, so we'll have that conversation further down the line.
And that's fair enough. You
that's
can't really
fine.
ask
that's
for any
fine.
more than that.
But if it's all about how that conversation is handled by them, and understanding, you know, whether they're going to be receptive to that. And it is about balance again. We're not here saying let's mobilize the troops and have a mass walkout because we have decided that, you know, people don't pay people well. It's not about that. Like, there's companies out there that will really look after their staff. They'll pay them well. They'll have loads of benefits, lovely working environment, great team, no toxic culture. If you're one of them and you're lucky, hold on to that. Don't be blindly loyal, but be grateful, because not everyone does. And I've worked some horrors. You've worked some horrors. This is why it's quite fun for us to talk about. But go back to understanding your value and what you add to them. Because, yes, they can chuck you out and replace you in 4 days. However, it doesn't guarantee to them that they're going to get better.
Nope.
And they have to spend money replacing you as well.
Yeah, and that's it. Recruitment costs are huge. And
huge.
If you listen to this episode and you go, do you know what, off the back of this, I decided to put my CV on any job recruitment website.
They cannot send your CV without your consent.
Exactly. And if you update your CV, if you start proactively looking at what should I be being paid, then that is the best thing ever. Yeah. Let us know. Like, reach out.
Yeah, and it is healthy to do so. So a recruiter isn't just going to blind fire your CV to everyone. Like, they're going to call you, ask you about the job, have a conversation about it. Now, you don't have to agree for them to say it. You might just say, look, I just want it online because it might be the right opportunity. Like, there's nothing wrong with looking for the right opportunity.
Yep.
And, you know, you've got to think of number one.
Exactly. And I think, Fox, if you're listening to this and you're not watching it, what you can probably hear is the pitter-patter of feet. And that's Fox telling us that we're done for this episode.
Yeah,
our time is up. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We can't wait to catch you guys for the next episode. You can find us pretty much on all forms of social media and anywhere that you find your podcasts at the Only Finance Podcast or the onlyfinancepodcast.com. And that's all we've got time for. Have a great week, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.